Hello and welcome to Workplace at the River, where we transform lives at the workplace. My name is Joel and I'm part of the team at Workplace at the River, and I'd like to welcome you to our Thursday Biz Talk, talks that will help you thrive at the workplace. This evening we've got a very interesting topic and a couple of very interesting speakers as well. But before we go into the conversation today, I'd like us all to play a simple icebreaker. So if you can excuse me, if you can go to the link on screen, it's menti.com, and you'll see a code. So go ahead and fill in the code that you see, and you can answer that question. So yeah, it's a simple question. What are the 3 top criteria for hiring someone today? So the position that we want to take today is, imagine you're an employer and you've got all these CVs, these resumes, these potential people who want to join your company. So what do you think are the 3 top criteria for hiring someone today? All right, so let's get some feedback. Let's get some responses. I see 30 participants here. So if I can get some of your responses, that would be great. Yep. Culture fit. Is that right? Yeah, culture fit. Learning agility and humility. Wow. Those are very, very interesting concepts. I see experience, character. What else? Oh, there's a lot of you feeding back. Forward looking, grit. Yeah, grit is a very interesting word. It's a buzzword now. Budget. How to budget, or the sense of how to spend their money, right? Attitude, character, team player. Yeah, that's something good. Chemistry, adaptability. All right. Well, there are a bunch of you responding. Teamwork, I think that's been covered. IT savvy. Wow, that's a good one. Willingness to learn. I see. Okay, but it still looks like character and attitude are up in front at the lead. Integrity. That's a very good one. What else? What else? Skills. Any specific skills that you see? I see this one. Oh, fitting job description. Yeah, that's a good one. Yep, a couple more of you think team player, so that's good. All right. Digital awareness in initiative. All right. Very good. So as you can see, those of you who have selected more of these points, the word will grow bigger. So yeah, character, attitude is still up at the forefront. EQ. Okay. Emotional quotient, right? All right, excellent. Thank you all for participating. I can see the top 3 are integrity, EQ, and what was the other one? Teamwork, right? Yeah. So those are some of the things that you have suggested, even as potential. Yeah, thanks, David. Attitude, character, and EQ. Yeah, and team player is a close number 4, I guess. So thanks for that. Thanks, David. So we can see that the potential employers in this place via Zoom, you guys know what you want to hire, all right? So you're not necessarily looking for paper qualifications alone, but you're looking for certain skills, certain things that it's not really quantifiable. And it's good to know, because that's what we'll be talking about today. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speakers. But before I do that, let me just say that if you've got any questions, any thoughts even, or if you want to encourage our speakers for today, or encourage me or the team here at Workplace at the River, go ahead and do that. You can drop all your comments, all your questions at the chat on Zoom. So we'll pick them up as we go along. So yeah, thank you, Samkyong. And that is what we want to see. We want to see all of you participating. So at any point of time, don't feel like it's the wrong time or the right time. Just go ahead and drop your comments there. For this week, we're not going to use the tiny.cc link. We thought it's the best for aiding our communication and increasing our engagement. So do drop your comments in the chat. All right, and with that, I'd like to introduce our speakers for today. We've got Vincent Wong, who is from Pentagon Plus. It is a recruitment firm. And we've also got Kimberlyn Lu, who is the country manager for Robert Walters Malaysia. Both of them are executive recruiters, and they're going to be talking about some of the skills, some of the requirements that employers look for, and how to thrive in employment post COVID-19. All right, so this talk is going to be very interesting. It's not just a one-way talk. So I'm going to have a little conversation with the both of them. So, okay, I see Vincent and Kim. Kim is ready. All right, yeah. So Vincent, why don't I ask you the first question? You ready? Yeah, over to you, Vincent. So, Vincent, so we're talking about, what are some of the skills and things that employers look for, even now in post COVID times. So why don't you share with us some of the marketable skills and even the roles that some of our listeners here can go into, some of the roles that our companies are hiring today. Over to you, Vincent.
Right. Thank you so much for having me this evening, and for all of you spending this precious evening to join in. I was really impressed with the Menti exercise, and I think you all answered very well. One particular area, surprisingly, none of you mentioned good looking. There was no criteria for being good looking when employers want to hire you. Okay. I think in the last 4 to 5 months, there's been a lot of disruption, the most severe disruption. And I remember one of the first things that I shared with my office people was that we do not know what's the depth of this crisis. We do not know what's the length, and we do not know what's the shape of recovery, whether it's a U or whether it's a V or whether it's an L shape. And things are still changing on a daily basis. And I think, Joel, you asked a good question. What is the next generation workforce looking like? What is the future of jobs, and what are the skills required? I think that's a good question. I did some preparation. So last night I read a report. Now that you all know what to hire, what criteria to hire, I read a report yesterday that asked the same questions. So this report is by The Economist, and they actually interviewed 500 over companies, hiring managers who are directors and senior managers. They asked the same question. They asked, how future ready is your existing workforce? Second, what are the skills needed? So these are two very good questions, which I thought would be a good way to just start the whole conversation. It's a 32-page report. So I thought it would be good. I'll just summarize for you guys, so at least you see the big picture. Eh? All right, so in terms of the survey, they first asked, Mr. Employer, how ready are you for the future? And interestingly, 17% said, we are ready. We are ready with this post-COVID. We are ready to manage this crisis. Interestingly, 5% are struggling, and the other 78% are just trying to cope. All right. So from this, what I gathered when I was reading this, hey, guys, if you are preparing yourself for the workforce, guess what? The employers are also doing that, because more than 80%, they are also preparing. What do we need to do to get over this situation? What do we need to do to be competitive? What do we need to do to be innovative? Then the next question they ask, do you feel your present workforce has got all the necessary skills? And interestingly, 85% of them said, no, we don't have. Our current workforce don't have the necessary knowledge and skill. Therefore, the important question is, what then is the most important skill? So what I'll do is that I will flag it out, and you can see there are 8. All right, so David, if you just want to flag it out, and then I'll show you, these are the 8 highest request for the skills. All right. Sorry, go to the blue bar, the next one, next slide, and the next one. Yes, okay. So, sorry, just before this, yes. Can you see here? They asked 500 over companies and they all rank them in order. The largest being critical thinking. You always ask the question why. They also ask about leadership, very important, collaboration, and problem solving. So this is in order of rank. Okay, so keep in mind, if you notice this, these are all about your character. These are all about your attitude. I think with most of your answers in Menti, I'm so glad that you guys are thinking on the right page. Yeah. Then the next skill set outside of the person, they talk about your technical skills. What are the top three over here? Analytical reasoning. You see the analytical reasoning, digital marketing. All right. And the third one, very interestingly, they say ability to manipulate data. I was thinking through what's ability to manipulate data. Basically, what they're just trying to say is that, look, you have got data analytic skills. These are data scientists. They are able to look at huge chunks of data, make some understanding, create some algorithm, and make use of it. Okay, so you have here the top skills that's required by employers, how to get over. And this is basically the future of jobs. Huh? Right, now, I also did a quick, last night, so I did a quick homework. Actually, in Malaysia, do you know what jobs are being advertised today? Have you wondered, do you go into job portals? Do you go into LinkedIn to find out? So I did, I called up a friend in LinkedIn, I checked in with another friend from Wong, I also checked in with another job portal. So I'm just going to flash it here very quickly, okay? Look at, this is based on last night. These are the 10 most identified jobs that's being advertised in LinkedIn. Okay, I'm going to pause here a while, you just have a quick read. Highest being software developer. And you see that there are 15 million openings. This is global, okay? And then if you look through sales, project, IT administrator, customer service, digital marketer, IT, do you realize there is actually a huge focus on IT, which is quite true. Just now, earlier, the survey did provide that. Let's see the next slide by Monster. Top skill demand in 2020. Can you see all 10 of them? Complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, people management. Okay, so this is all very high level. I just want to give you a quick overview. You have become hiring managers. You saw this report that was done. We have seen 2 advertisements, from Wong and also from, LinkedIn and also from Monster, the kind of roles that are being hired today. Yeah. So that just gives you a quick overview, Joel.
All right, thanks, Vincent, for that very excellent overview. And this news or this information is so hot, is so fresh because it just came out, I think yesterday, right?
Yes.
So this is really cutting edge. It's brand new stuff, right? I just want to say right now that for those of you who are watching via Facebook Live as well, go ahead and drop your comments in the comment section, and you can ask your questions there as well, even as Vincent and Kim begin to share some of the things that they're going to share about. So earlier we just heard from Vincent talking about the overview of employment right now, what employers are looking for. But let's shift towards Kim. So she'll be talking about more of the individual. So Kim, the basic question that everybody is asking is, how does one get hired? How do you go about seeking for a job that you really desire? Are there any tips and tricks for us, as potential job hunters? So over to you, Kim.
Sure. Okay, great. Thanks very much, Joel. So first and foremost, happy to see everyone here. Now, to answer Joel's question, I'm going to break it into 2. First and foremost, if you are someone who currently is in a job and just slightly dissatisfied, slightly unhappy because no job is perfect, my first advice to you is don't resign without a job. Hang in there. Find ways to add value to your organization. There are many different ways as an individual, either upskilling yourself or continuing to find ways to add value to your company, which we can talk about later. But if you can hold on, don't resign. A lot of times when you resign without a job and not because of a retrenchment or anything, in your future job search, it gives rise to questions from employers on your resilience, on your grittiness, on your ability to journey with the company when times are hard. So that becomes a bit harder to explain. And we know it's tough times ahead, and companies are really looking for people who can go through tough times with them. So if you can, hang on. Now, if you're in the second category and you, for some reason, you are already in between jobs, be it due to a company restructuring, a VSS exercise, or some decisions that you've made that has left you now in between jobs, maybe just a few tips that I'd like to just share. One, you're currently job seeking. Make sure, number one, you're very clear on the type of role that you are looking for. Whether you are a finance professional, your skill sets are in logistics, or marketing, or sales. I think sometimes when we are desperate, and I think there are a lot of people who are feeling a bit desperate right now, when we are desperate, we tend to apply for everything, and we try to convince a headhunter or a hiring company that I can do everything. Even though I've never done it before, I'm sure I can do it. Uh, that kind of strategy can potentially backfire on you, because companies will think that, one, you are a bit deluded, you're not thinking clearly, or number two, you're desperate, you don't have a clear thought process. And that can really put off headhunters who want to help you, or companies who want to hire. So just be clear on what you're looking for, base it on your skill sets and previous experience if you can. Number two, I would really encourage you to expand your job hunting channels through various channels. There are online platforms, there are, recruitment firms like Vince and myself. Uh, Network with friends, do direct applications. Don't be silo, i.e. just looking at one channel. In a market like this, you need to be a lot more resourceful and just utilize as many channels as you possibly can. Number three, I would really say definitely update your online profile. And when it comes to job seeking, we're talking about LinkedIn as a professional network. Make sure, one, you do have a LinkedIn profile, and make sure that your LinkedIn profile is professional with a really proper professional photo, a bit of a write-up about yourself. Believe me, as headhunter, I read what you write about yourself, and a brief summary of what you have done. Any recommendations or achievements that you've had, you can highlight it there. If people have written recommendations about you, it makes you stand out from the rest. Obviously, last but not the least is prepare a good CV. I think, CV writing is a separate topic on its own, but the reality is I would just advise keep it brief, 2 to 3 pages at most. If you want to put a picture, make sure it's professional. Your CV has to be 100% accurate. People tend to sometimes make their CVs very colorful and very wordy. I would always encourage a CV to put facts, data, numbers, dates. Numbers are powerful stories. If you drive sales, whether you're able to say that I increased sales by 30% in a matter of 8 months, and then it's fact and figures, versus just saying I'm a dynamic sales director with long-term achievements. Words can be cheap, but if you're able to provide facts, data, etc., it makes your CV really stand out. So in a nutshell, those are just some of the few advice, Joel, that I might give people.
All right, thanks, Kim, for that. So there you go. There are a couple of very key pointers for all of us to take note of. We're going to go back to Vincent right now. So Kim earlier was talking about, if you're holding a reasonably good career, hold on to that position, hold on to that job for as long as possible. So, but there are some people who are actually going through a career change, or even moving to a different company, even in COVID-19, this time of COVID-19. So the question is for you, Vincent, is this really a good time for a career change, or any time of or any type of move? Yeah, over to you, Vincent.
That's a really good question. I remember that question was popped up by my consultant in a meeting on Monday. They asked, the candidates are asking us, is this a good time for a career change with the uncertainty? What happens? And I had to pause a while and think carefully. And I'll probably give you three tips. If you're currently unhappy, and when I say unhappy, meaning to say that you don't eat well, you don't sleep well, and going to job causes your health to deteriorate, you've got mental and emotional stress, then that's a sign that no, it's time to stop because it's affecting your health. Okay. Second, if your company is already unstable, why are you still staying there? Because eventually there could be retrenchment. And then third, I would probably say that if you yourself personally you are not growing, it is time to look for another job. I would want to say that as a recruiter like Kim and myself, if you're being approached by a recruitment consultant, another company approaches you, then I would really encourage you to explore that because they have a need for hire. They have seen something in you. So I think it's best for you to explore by having a conversation. Ask them, okay, what about my role, my experience can favor your company? How can I add value? How can I contribute? So I will go on that basis. Yeah. And then maybe if I can also add to what Kim said earlier, I think in terms of the resume writing, remember your resume writing is actually to get you the interview. Okay. And then once you interview, the interviewing skills is another separate topic altogether. So remember, resume is to get you the interview, make it precise, make it factual, use numbers, use proper data there. And then during the interview, wow, that's another big topic altogether. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for that, Vincent. So yeah, your CV will actually get you through the door. But at the end of the day, it's only for the interview. All right. So maybe with regards to that, we can go back to Kim. We can ask this question. So when we are applying for a job, you gave us some tips earlier about how to write our CV, some of the pointers that we should absolutely put into practice. But what about the flip side? What are some of the things that we should absolutely not do when applying for a job?
Sure.
To really
Okay.
throw the employer off. What are some of these things that we should stay away from?
Okay. Wow, how much time do we have? But okay, some things that as headhunters repeatedly jump out of at us. Okay, first and foremost, when you are job searching, obviously your LinkedIn has to have a professional photo. And when I say professional, I don't mean the photo that you took when you were clubbing with your friends, or when you were sunbathing at the beach in Bahamas, or with your shirt open and your chest hair out. Yeah, I think sometimes in this day and age where we use social media a lot, we don't tend to differentiate between a professional platform such as LinkedIn and your Instagram or your Facebook. Please do differentiate that. It is very different. Yeah. You want to put your best professional face forward. And I promise you, as a headhunter, it matters to me when someone is connecting with me, how they approach and what they look like, how they present themselves on LinkedIn. Number two, I would really encourage people be respectful of the job search process. When you approach people on LinkedIn, whether you're applying through a headhunter like us or you're writing directly to a company, write properly. It is a proper business approach. I have gotten messages from people like, "Hey, yo, how's your day?" Or "Hey there." It might seem like nothing, but it kind of reflects on the thought process of the person if that is the proper way to approach and do business. So I would say really connect with people properly, and probably if you're going to make a mistake on a bit more being a bit more formal rather than too casual. Yeah. Um, One other thing that I just want to say is when people are able to secure an interview, they will spend a lot of time preparing for an interview by reading up about the company, going to the company's website. That's all well and good. But a lot of people actually forget to prepare and read their own CV. Especially if you're a candidate who hasn't gone job searching for a long time, you may actually forget what you've written on the CV. And sometimes clients might pick out an achievement and say, "You said you did this in 2014. Can you elaborate on how you did it?" And suddenly your mind goes blank. We've seen that happen, especially for people who are a bit more senior who haven't attended interview for quite some time. That happens. And last but not the least, we see a lot of people thinking that an interview is storytelling. It's not. The interviewer has a sharp 45 minutes or 1 hour for you, and your objective is to make the most of that session. In Robert Walters, we always encourage people to use the EAR method. When you are asked to highlight an achievement, you start with an E, which is an event. You highlight an event. For example, okay, I work in fast food, and last week there was a complaint about uncooked chicken that was served. What was the action that you took? Okay, my action was within 12 hours, I made contact with the customer who made the complaint, address his concerns, and close it off before it could go viral. And R, as a result, everything was resolved, the customer was satisfied, and there was no big blowout. So when you're able to talk an interviewer through your achievements with ear, it's a clear thought process. You're able to journey the interviewer thought, what was the crisis, what did you do, and what was the subsequent benefit to the business. And that is just very different from just storytelling or regurgitating your CV. So maybe those are just some of the advice I would give job seekers.
All right, thank you, Kim, for that. Yeah, so very important point. So remember the EAR method, right? So highlight an event, what is the action that you took, and what is the result that came out of it. So that's very good pointers, and it's very concise. So thanks for that, Kim. We'll go into a bunch of questions that have been coming in from the audience as well as from Facebook Live. But yeah, even as you are all hearing this and you're listening in, feel free to drop your questions and to ask either Vincent or Kim. Or if you're not sure, you can just leave it open-ended, and then you can go ahead and let either one of them address the question. So I've got a question here from MC Cole. He's asking this: are education qualifications important in the whole job search? So I think right now with the whole tech bubble, where companies like Google and Microsoft are saying they're not looking at professional or paper qualifications anymore, but in the general market, for the most people, how important is it? Yeah, over to you. Probably.
Kim, you want to take this?
Sure. I know your strategy, Vince. Okay.
Outsource.
Okay, I'll take this question. I think generally, to answer truthfully for Malaysia, the answer is still yes. I would love to say that most organizations have moved beyond that, but I think for most part, education and qualification are still a bit of a barometer. Companies do still value it. Having said that, on the flip side, there will be more progressive organizations or maybe startups that are more open to different kind of work experience rather than just being plainly focused on your education. If you have exhibited the ability to learn, the ability to be agile, the ability to pivot, etc., I think some organizations might be open. But to answer the question very clearly, for most part, I think in Malaysia, it still is. Vince, your thoughts?
Yes, I think especially if you're in the accounting line, engineering, if you're also in the finance line, it's very clear. You need to have a degree, you need to have a certification. So it's very clear cut. It's almost like you must have this to be able to be shortlisted for the job interview. If you don't have it, it's very clear cut. So the recruiter, when we read, will have certain criteria. You must have a degree, you must be ACCA qualified, or you must be admitted to the bar. One of those is actually listed there. So those are important. I do agree. I think the only exception would be, for example, if you've worked for many years, say you've got more than 15, 20 years, and you will file and rank. Let's just say you graduated with a diploma, you work for 20 years. That skill that you have acquired actually adds value. So that could be a compensation. So the short answer is yes, you do need to have that. I think also the audience that we target are professionals. So with professionals, they all at least need to have a degree.
All right, thank you, Vincent and Kim as well for that. So indeed, right here in our climate, in the environment here in Malaysia, education qualification is important. As Vincent also highlighted, especially if you're going to a more professional type qualification, education qualification is very important. It's actually your passport. Is the minimum requirement to get it into a job as well. Yeah. How about in terms of just the qualification? You talked about qualifications as well as some of the work experience. But are there very marketable skills, like very specific skills that are that you would say are good for us to have, good to learn, skills that you can't just learn from a university degree or a professional qualification? Kim and Vincent, any comments? Are there any skills?
Sure. Vince, you want to start?
Okay, so in the interview, my daily job is basically talking to people on the phone or meeting them. And one of the things that I usually like to ask them is to give me critical example or specific example that relates to the past, because I feel that would probably be a good predictor of future performance. So first of all, it would be the hard skill, like you said, passport, Joel. Second would be the attributes and the character that is displayed. So for example, if you are a business development person, I want to ask, look, when was the time when you had to take a risk to open up a new market? Tell me, what did you do? Then they will describe how do you go about it and what was the result. If you are in, say, quality assurance, guess what? I'm going to be asking. I'm going to ask how detailed are you? What kind of errors that you make? If you are, say, a HR person, one of the questions I will be asking would be, for example, how do you retain your staff? So these are KPIs that is on the job, and when we ask a conversation, we draw some of these incidences. So maybe just one example, I remember interviewing a headmaster. Okay, so headmaster, I'm like, I don't get a chance to interview a lot of principal. She went into a new school, and I remember she was just sharing that disciplinary punctuality was very bad. And I asked her, so how do you get around this? The teachers are not punctual on time. And she told me this story, Vincent, very easy. Every morning I come to school early, I stand at the gate and I wish all the teachers good morning. Until today, I remember the story. It tell me how she problem solved it and how she was a good leader, because she told the line and she showed it by example. Yeah. So I hope this gives you a bit of feel about how employers or recruiter will try and tease out some of this. It tells me what you can do. And a lot of times it comes from the inner strength or inner character.
All right, thanks, Vincent. Kim, you wanna weigh in on this as well?
Sure. Yeah, maybe just adding on to Vincent, some things that you only learn as you go through life and career. Um, I like to look at how people bounce back from failures. I think that's very important. I think people who avoid taking risk, as Vince said, hence avoid failures, may not be the kind of employees companies are looking for. You want people who are able to drive, to innovate, to take some risks, that they don't put their ego ahead of the game. So the willingness to take risks, do something, fail, and when they fail forward. It's amazing when you interview candidates, talk through, and they talk about crisis that they go through and how they go through it. I think it can be very inspiring. And it just tells me if I put this person in an organization that's going through change, going through transformation, which a lot of companies will be going through, this person can not just thrive, but can really contribute. Yeah, so these are just some of the things I think that's important. Secondly, I think leadership is something you really just hone by experience. None of us become great leaders overnight, and you go through it by managing people, potentially managing people correctly, and then managing people incorrectly throughout your career, and coming to a level of self-awareness and keep honing and developing your skills. So these are, again, things that I think are important.
All right, thanks, Kim. Thanks, Vincent, as well for all your impartation on that. Yeah, it is indeed important to have both, not just the hard skill, but also the soft skill. Let's go into a couple more questions here. So we've got a question from Sammy in the chat. So we were talking about qualifications, education qualifications, as well as professional qualifications. So the question is MBA required for career growth? How far can MBA take us, and how can an MBA help us? Yeah. Over to you, Vincent, Kim.
In the past, when people do MBA, I would usually ask, hey, actually, what's the reason for taking MBA? And one track is that they've only had a diploma, they never had a degree, so they took the MBA. And then I would say, hey, what thesis do you do for MBA? It tells me a little bit about why they took the MBA. Quite often, the general perception is, I take an MBA so that I can get a raise or I can get a better career growth. I would think that that's probably not foundational enough. I think you must be interested. For example, if you're very interested, say in child education, you do a master's in it, that's fine. If you are very interested in forensic investigation, so you do a study on that, that's fine too. But if you're doing MBA purely thinking that you will be able to move ahead, I think you need a bit more in that sense. However, if you're moving into a management role with some of the corporate MNCs, they do value an MBA. And I think that's reflected sometimes because it could be a criteria that they put. If you're going to be a country manager or if you're going to be moving into a very senior role, that's a nice to have. Kim, I
All
don't
right.
know you have anything to add on this?
Yes, I think to Vincent's point, I think there are certain organizations or professions like consulting, maybe some financial services, strategy roles where an MBA is really seen as important. But mostly, maybe if it's manufacturing, consumer goods, healthcare, might not necessarily be a super prime commodity. Having said that, my view on an MBA is don't take an MBA thinking that once I get these 3 additional letters to my name, I immediately get a 30% premium on my salary. And believe me, we've had interviews like that where a candidate says, my friends tell me now that I've completed my MBA, my market value is up by 60%. So my view is it's not. However, if because of the MBA you demonstrate additional value to your organization, you have great analytical skills, you're able to, do a great SWOT analysis, you have a very wide worldview, then you're quickly able to differentiate yourself from other employees in your organization. You're able to add value. That's where you can probably grow more in your career, and probably then your compensation will reflect that, but not just because you completed it, it's immediate salary hike.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Kim. Thanks, Vincent. So it's not just a direct passport to get a 30 or even 60% increment, but get an MBA that's specific to your industries, something related to counseling or strategy, things that will help you add value, but don't expect it to definitely up your pay grade, right? Yeah. So I guess that's a very important thing for us to consider as well. Yeah, thanks for your input. We've got a couple of questions, or we've got one very specific question. So, as a job seeker, I guess the process that you would go through is that you will apply to the company, send them an email with a cover letter, and then drop your CV as well. So, how can we help with the mental health of the job seeker? So the question is, I guess the job seeker is wondering, like, when are you going to respond to me? Will I even get a response? Well, on this, I believe different companies have different standards of what is acceptable. So based on your experience, both at Robert Walters and at Pentagon Plus, what is the reasonable, even in sense of time and a response and things like that, that you would suggest to employers? Yeah.
I'll take this. I still have these statistics of record. The longest time I worked on an assignment was 2 years and a half for a top technology company in Malaysia. I can't say the name lah. And the highest number of interview process, I think it was 16 interviews. So imagine the company took 16 interviews to hire somebody. Having said that, the quickest is actually within 3 days because there's only one hiring manager. He interviewed the candidate and was hired. So interview on Friday, by Monday the offer was made. So I think, Joel, your question was it the mental health? Did you use mental health or the emotions? Is it?
Yeah, how do you manage the emotions of the job seeker, because they apply for the job and then they are waiting X amount of time, they don't hear from the employer, so reasonable amount of time for them to hear from the employer.
Okay. I think the control of time is outside the influence of a recruiter because the hiring manager is looking at it. And as a rule of thumb, the more hiring managers there are, the longer process it will take from them screening the CVs, first interview, second interview, third interview. In some companies, they even have assessment centers. They may do a profiling tool. They may even doing a questionnaire. I think the way to go about it would be maybe drop a friendly note just to ask the status of your application. That control is going to be a bit hard. I don't know, Kim, what's your view on this?
Sure. I can truly empathize with people, especially now, who are job seeking and either not getting a response or, it's emailing and just being ignored. I would say from a recruitment firm's perspective, we want to be able to respond within a couple of days to maybe 5 days on whether yes, no, you're suitable. That is ideal. It might not be 100% done, but I think that's ideal. Obviously, we cannot say for hiring organization. It really depends on the busyness and the responsiveness of their HR. But I think we're always working with clients to educate them on the importance of giving candidates a good experience. That hence being responsive to them, whether it's an acceptance or a rejection. That's one. But number two, I want to advise candidates. Yes, to Vincent's point, you can always maybe drop a follow-up note after a couple of days. Hi, just following through. Have you seen my email? One, it just makes you stand out a bit more that you're serious, or you're not one of the 100 candidates who are spamming CVs. That you're actually serious about this position that you've applied for. Or number two, if you can, give the headhunter a quick call. You'd be surprised at how many CVs I receive. Maybe out of 100 CV, I'll get one phone call, one. Because people expect you to just read and respond. But sometimes as a headhunter, candidates do have to understand we receive a lot as well. So if you want to make yourself stand out, you're not totally helpless as well. You can take some control by dropping follow-up notes or just giving a follow-up phone call. On the second part of it, if you've attended an interview with a client or if you've attended an interview with a headhunter and you want to know, okay, how soon will I hear from you? You can pretty much ask your headhunter, okay, after this interview, how long should I wait to expect maybe some feedback from you? Is 2 weeks okay? I think it's okay to do that. It also means that you're really serious about it. Because sometimes if you don't ask, 3 days will feel so long. And after 3 days, you're chasing every day. And that can really take a toll on your mental health.
Yeah, thanks for that, Kim and Vincent. So maybe just as a rule of thumb, some gauge for us, how do you balance between sounding interested and being desperate? So where do you draw the line? Like how frequently should you check back on them? Kim, you highlighted that giving a call is good because it makes you known, right? So yeah, how do you know?
Me, if it's a timeline, and normally when I meet a candidate, I will close the meeting off by telling them what to expect, i.e. after I meet you today, give me a couple of weeks, 2 weeks. If you don't hear from me, feel free to drop me a note. So meaning before 2 weeks, don't call me every day, because clients need time to process your CV, look at it as well. And like you said, if you keep following up so stringently, it makes you look very desperate, which is not positive. And also it can be just annoying. And the last thing you want is to annoy the people that you want to partner with. Yeah. So give it some time, a week, 2 weeks.
So maybe a tip, if you don't want to look so desperate, 2 things you can do as a candidate, as a job seeker. If you read about the company, there's some announcement or there's some product development or any major announcement, you can use it as a reason. Hey, I heard this is happening. I'm so glad. Then the employer knows that, oh, you're following up with what's happening in the market. So there's one way of getting in touch. I think with candidates, usually I tell them, I give you permission to bug me. I tell them, if you don't hear from me within a month, I think Kim is totally right, because we talk to people every day. Sometimes we forget who is who. I tell them, if after a month you don't hear from me, you got permission to just drop me a note or give me a call, and that helps. Yeah, but don't do it on every week lah. That's definitely very desperate.
Right.
Vince, sorry, Joel, I'll just add one thing on that, especially if you are a job seeker using a headhunter. So I get a lot of WhatsApps because in my name card, my mobile phone is there.
Yeah.
Obviously, I cannot register every single candidate's mobile on my handphone. And I get a lot of messages. Hi, what's the news? It's a phone number. I don't know who you are, unfortunately. And hi, what's the update? So do identify yourself, because a headhunter will have many candidates. And number two, sometimes your headhunter can feel like your friend, but do respect timelines as well. It's amazing. I get messages at 12 midnight, 1 a.m. asking for updates. And sometimes that can be quite off-putting because it seems to indicate lack of respect of boundaries.
All right. Thanks, Kim. Yeah. Watch people's boundaries. And as Vincent earlier said, about weekly is good enough. So the fact that you're following up as well is already a good thing, but don't overdo it, right? So too much of a good thing is not good in the first place. All right. So wow, we've got a bunch of questions coming in. I'm just looking at the questions, coming in right now. So let me just ask the first one from Shamin. Well, she's asking on behalf of someone. How much is a reasonable amount of an increment to ask for towards your new employer? Yeah, what is a reasonable range? What's the reasonable quantum?
Kim, you have to take this.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Generally, we will say that, okay, maybe pre-COVID, let's say pre-COVID, we generally advise candidates when they move, it can be a range from maybe 15% to 30% if you are in a very specialized niche skill set. Yeah. Now, let's just say post-COVID now, obviously companies are a bit more conservative about budgets and resources. I think if it's a progression for you, it's a good opportunity, it's a good company. If you can move between 15, 20%, that would probably be a good range. And I think that's a good range already. What I would discourage you to do is say, but my friend moved 4 months ago and my friend got 30%. A lot of times you and your friend don't have the same skill sets or achievements. And each hiring organization is different. So I would say if you can get 15 to 20% in this time, it's really not a bad thing. Some have even gone for lower. We've seen offers close at 10 or 12% because some candidates are a bit more wide in their outlook. It's not all about the money. For them, the package, the opportunity to step into the company is just a stepping stone, because once you are in and you're able to prove your value, your career is going to skyrocket anyway, and so will your compensation.
All right, thanks for that. Yeah, so go for growth. So whether it's financial or even in terms of your skill set and what you know and what you do, right? So thanks for that, Kim. Okay, I'll save Vincent. I think we've got a bunch of other questions. Okay, we've got just about 10 minutes, and there are about 3 questions. Let me ask the next one. Where is this? Okay. So what are some of the industries, if you can give a list of the top 3 industries that are of in a higher demand? I think this one Vincent can answer. Earlier you highlighted in the slides a bunch of them, but if you were to list the top 3 industries, what would it be, Vincent?
Okay, Malaysia-wise, I've got a few here. For sure, in the area of ICT, Information, Communication and Technology, that's definitely a good growth. So I check in with people like Warp today. See who else is hiring? Software development, very high in demand. They are still growing. Everything is going mobile. Everything is going data. So anything along the line of IT, whether you're a technical person, you're a programmer, you're a functional person, that's growing for sure. The other area which I heard from my client talking to them is in the area of food manufacturing. During the COVID time, they did not stop. Their growth actually went even higher. So that's growing as well. Another industry I probably want to highlight will be in the area of health and education. These are essential. These are very basic. So people are still spending money. People are still growing. In fact, they're learning how to cope with it. Education is a good example. All the teachers are learning, how do I teach online? How do I use smart systems? I think another part which, just for all your information, I think today Apple also announced as well, we are trying to use less of carbon. Okay, so anything that's on carbon will be reduced. Therefore, solar energy is going up. I think Apple today also mentioned they will use less of carbon in their products as well. So that's actually a global trend. That's also another growth stage.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for that. And I think one of the companies that comes to mind straight away is companies like Gardenia, right? I mean, it came out in the news. That's why I can highlight it, where they were going at their max capacity, yet people still wanted to buy bread, myself included. So yeah, these industries, food, health, education. I guess that helps answer your question, Reynolds, right? Yeah, thanks for that. All right, the next couple of questions are related, especially to the interview and the interview process. So maybe I'll go the first one from Ewan. So now everything is going online, and things are going more digital. So essentially, you send your email or CV with a cover letter to the company, and then it may not even be a human being that picks up your CV or your resume. It could be a bot, right? It could be some robot somewhere that picks it up and looks at some of the skills that are required. So how can we write a CV or write even an email that will stand out and that will well, I can't use the word guarantee, but enhance the chances, right, of us being picked out in a job search by a company.
Okay, Vince, I'll answer that. Yeah. I think if you think you are writing to a bot, and like it's true, a lot of companies are shifting into AI. You do make sure that in your letter or in your CV, you do include quite a lot of keywords that are relevant to the job that you're applying for. You know, and sometimes this really takes a bit of customization from you. It's not a one size fits all cover letter or CV. So if you're applying for a job, let's say in marketing, so you want to be able to put your digital marketing strategies there, SEO, SEM, so all the things that you've done on the digital front, because the AI and the bots will read that and match it to the job that you're applying for. So that's that. I would say that in Malaysia, it's still yes and no. Quite a lot of people still use human beings, thank God. But if it's now to a human being like me or a talent acquisition person sitting at a client's place, definitely relevant of what you write on the cover letter. I might even say cover email. You know, sometimes cover letters on a CV people just scroll through. But if you send me an email and actually wrote on the email that I'm applying for this job and why I might be good at it, and if you're able to cite something specific to my company, I read in the news that you're now ramping up your production of gardenia 24 hours. I have skills in this. So you relate a news that you heard to a skill set that you have to make yourself really, truly relevant to an organization. That I would say make your application stand out a bit more.
I would add on to say that if it's a bot, imagine how you feel being interviewed by a bot or screen through, and that's the application tracking system. But I think one tip is that try to go through a referral. I think that's the best way. 7, 8 out of candidates being placed, the referral is actually a very powerful thing. Find someone in the company that you know, pass it through them, or Google up to find out who's the name of the hiring manager. Instead of writing to recruit@abc.com, send it to Mr. Mr. Wong, and he's the HR manager of such and such, or the product development manager. Try and find the name of the person. I think you'll probably stand a lot higher chance.
All right, thanks Vincent, thanks Kim. Yeah, so go personal, and I think your network and those that you know will probably be very helpful, even though it's a bot. All right, so at the end of the day, there's a bot, but behind that bot there is people as well. So make sure there are good keywords, and make sure that as far as possible you do your research, do your background check, so that you know and you can go straight into the person. All right, so we've got 2 more questions, but just about 5 minutes. So in terms of so the first part is the CV and the resume. So when he goes into the interview part, right, interviews are going online even more. I think even before, I've had a couple of friends who did their interview remotely. But what are some of the tips and tricks even that we can use when doing an interview online, when you can't really see the person face to face physically, and you, I mean, definitely you can't really see all the expressions that are going on, all the micro stuff that are going on people's faces, you know. So how do you go about doing a virtual or an online type interview? Yeah. Probably Kim would want to answer this, right?
Sure. Okay, great. Yes, I think it's true. More and more online interviews. First and foremost, I think be strategic with your location. Sometimes home is the best place. Sometimes it might not. If you need to go to a co-work space and get a room for peace and quiet and internet stability, make sure that you have that. Number 2, please dress properly still. It is still an interview. So last week I had a candidate who was going for a senior finance position, and he was interviewing from home, but he was smart enough to immediately call me and say, Kim, am I overdoing it if I'm planning to wear a jacket? I'm going to turn on the aircon. I'm going to wear a jacket. Is it overdoing it if I wear a tie? Will I look desperate? So we even talk about things like these. I even told him, if you're going to put on a jacket, please turn on your air conditioning because you don't want to start sweating during the interview. So things like that, do make sure that if it's at home, your dog or your kids are secured. so you are able to concentrate fully. But last but not least, if possible, turn on your video. I think in the absence really of a face-to-face, a voice can be quite flat. But if you're able to see expressions, if the host can, if your client can see your expression, you're able to convey warmth. You can smile. You can express your emotions, and the people can see, so you connect a bit better. But honestly, lastly, if it's really a pure phone video interview where there's no video, it's blank, I would encourage you to smile, because actually your smile shows through your voice. It really projects warmth, and make sure that you are energetic when you talk. I think that's some of the tips I would give.
All right. Thanks, Kim. Yep. Okay, we've got one last question. And before we close for today, for those of us here who are considering a change of occupation or even a change of industry, are there any resources to find like what would be good for us? So probably like kind of a job matchmaking type of thing. Is there something like that? Or are there any skills that or tips to help us reskill as potential employees for a firm? I mean, I know the government is doing a lot of initiatives, but are there specific tips for us that will help us along this way?
I think that's a good question. If say you're in the 20s, you started working maybe 2-3 years, and you say, oh, I don't really like accounting, or you started off in IT role and you say you don't like it too technical, and I think you'll use the word pivot, you want to try a different career, try to get mentors in your life and seek out these people. Just say, hey, look, can I buy you a drink? You've seen this person is perhaps doing something in banking, is doing something in investment. One company I really want to highlight, though, you can see, can you see the word here, Future Lab? Great company. They actually have got mentors in the professional space. So you can actually seek out your mentor, and you can actually spend time with them just asking all those relevant questions. If you always wanted to be a chief marketing officer in your 20s, you realize, oh, I want to be there. Go talk to them. They tell you the real truth of what's it like. So I think that would be good. Try and find out mentor within your professional crowd, within friends that you know, or people within your church circle. I think this would be a good way to tell you. At least you know that, look, you thought it's like that. When you talk to them, they give you a different picture. Whoa, okay, I'm glad at least I learned about that. Yeah. Interestingly, Facebook also has got mentor. I realized it only about a month ago. So you click into Facebook, you can actually search a mentor via there. But I'm not quite sure what's the quality of it. With Future Lab, I find it's better because they re-screen through all these mentors. And you do have to pay a small fee, and the small fee is given back into society. So it's also for a good cause.
All right. Thank you, Vincent. Okay, Kim.
I just want to add to that. I think outside of mentorship, there's a lot of things we can actually do to own our own career. Even in tough times, none of us are victims. I think we're blessed, grateful to have jobs. Now, I want to share with everyone that career progression need not be linear. It's not always upwards. When we want to upskill ourselves, look around you, there are opportunities. One, you can maybe sign up for an online course. It need not be very costly. It's a short one, but you're adding to your skills. Number two, if you don't want to pay for it, there's a lot of free resources online, be it TEDx, Facebook has a lot of people are offering free webinars. So learn up, sign up, take ownership of that. Third, approach your own organization, maybe put your hand up for opportunities to maybe take on side projects. You might be a finance person, but you can take on a short-term project with sales. And now you're complementing your skills that you're a finance person who understands what's happening outside. So a lot of companies are actually very willing to offer that, or they're quite open to it if only people might ask or show an interest too. I think sometimes a lot of us think that if I'm a talent, my boss has to come approach me and offer me a role. I think on the inverse, a lot of us can also take control of our own career and put our hand up and say, if there's an opportunity to conduct training, I'm happy to. Or boss, I'm going to learn Toastmaster because I want to improve my communication and presentation skills. So my view is on our own accord, there's a lot of things we can do to take charge of our own career and really supercharge it.
All right. Thanks, Vincent. Thanks, Kim. Yes, so indeed, get yourself a mentor, and Vincent has shared some of the ideas on how to do that. And Kim has also talked about side jobs, or the common name that it's called right now is side hustle, right? So things that are on the side that will help you go on the right track as well. So these are some of the things that we can do. We've run out of time, but I'm just gonna let both Vincent and Kim say a couple of words to us to encourage us and to leave us with for this evening. So yeah, who wants to go first? Kim.
Kim, you wanna go first?
Sure. Okay. I'll go
Yeah.
first. Okay. So my final thoughts is just two things. One, if you are currently in a company,
Yeah.
a lot of us might be feeling a bit uncertain. Will I be retrenched? Will I lose my job, etc.? I think I totally empathize with it. But instead of focusing on the fear and the worry, I would say find ways to add value to your organization. Ask yourself, what does my company need? What challenges potentially lie ahead? And how do I solve it? My view is I love people who come to me to try to solve problems rather than come to me every day to lay their problems on my feet. Uh, it's very rare that an employee will actually come to you and say, hey, how can I help you? Beyond my job scope, is there anything I can do to help? You never hear that conversation. But I think if you ever do that, stretch yourself a bit and ask how else you can add value to your organization, it just makes you much more relevant and show that you are someone willing to do what is needed to be valuable to the company. So that's one. And for people who are job seeking, I would encourage you to stay patient, be patient. I know sending 10 CVs and not getting a response can be very frustrating, but I would say just be patient. Do the journey right and do it with integrity. Don't ever be tempted to lie, misrepresent, cheat, flop off your CV, because it only takes one time that a headhunter or client picks up an integrity issue with you and you will be blacklisted. So as desperate as we get, remain steadfast, be patient, and maybe talk to people who can really give you proper advice. Vince?
Um, wow, let's try to see what's the best way to sum up. I think you have a different journey in your season of your career. If you're in the 20s, I would really advise you, look, you've never gone through a recession if you're in the 20s. And my advice is that get an attachment, get an internship, volunteer somewhere. Because if the employer to ask you, what were you doing, looking for a job, and let's just say 2 years, okay, maybe a bit extreme, let's just say 1 year, you should be able to describe what you've been doing. One tip would be, a lot of people try to look for a job with the big companies. Did you know that a majority of the jobs are actually with the SMEs? They actually have lots of jobs there. It may not be so sexy. You may never have heard of them because they've never branded themselves. Check out the SME companies. Okay, so a good place to check out is actually through WOB, W-O-B-B. I realized that there's a lot of unknown companies that's actually advertising themselves over there. I think that's a good platform. If you're in your 30s or 40s, yeah, it can be a bit difficult if there's a pay cut, quite common to hear people getting pay cut of 15, 20, 25%. Hang in there. Learn how to upskill, upgrade yourself. For those, say, in the 40s and 50s, I think try not to go back to your past glory. If you have to take a different role and if you totally have to have a shift in terms of the paradigm of what the workplace is taking place, be willing to learn again. I think that's important in that way. I mean, one of my favorite verses is actually from Jeremiah. It says that, I know the plans I have for you, plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. I think final advice, the mind is very important. Fill your mind with positive things. There is hope. Persevere. Kim said, be patient, and always keep your mind positive. What you think is what you are. So I think keep that positive, and then claim. If there are promises, if there are good friends around you, get the encouragement, get the blessing, get the good advice. I think with many advisors, you'll make a wise decision.
All right, thanks, Vincent and Kim. Yeah, so we've got an overview. It's almost like what's his name, Jack Ma said, right? In your 20s, do this. In your 30s, do that. So thanks for doing that, Vincent and Kim as well, for sharing all your expertise and experience with all of us. And yeah, I think one of the things that you've both said is hang in there, right? Even though it may be tough, even though you may hate your job and it may feel like you hate your life, but hang in there. Unless it's causing you deep emotional, mental, and even physical pain to your body, stay in the company. Just wait it out a little bit more. I think things will pick up in a while. So thank you for that, both Kim and Vincent. Why don't we all appreciate them for giving their time to spend with all of us here. Give them a virtual clap. Let me just do that as well, so you can clap. Thank them for spending their time with us, and looking forward to hear from both of you again. And let me just put a disclaimer. Uh, Even though they're in different companies, the reason why they have so much chemistry and they're so good with each other is because they're very good friends. They used to work together previously. They're not husband and wife. They're just good friends who used to work together previously. And I think that's why they've got such good chemistry. And we want to thank you for your enthusiasm. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with all of us this evening. Thank you, Vincent and Kim. All right, looking forward to see you again. All right, we've come to the end of the talk for today. I just want to highlight that next week we're going to have a very interesting speaker as well. It's Malik Ali, none other than Malik Ali. Some of you may know him as the founder of BFM 89.9, but he's also the founder of a new company called Fi Life. It's an insurance company. And why don't we hear from him? Is post-COVID a good time to start a business? All right, so he's one who's dabbled in the whole area of business. He's gone into business. He's succeeded in some and failed at some. But let's hear from him. Let's hear his background and his experience as well. So go ahead and register at the link you see on screen. It's already open, and I hear that it's already filling up, right? So book your spaces even right now. And feel free to engage with us next week as we gather again at this time at 7 p.m. next week. All right, so before I close, I just want to remind all of us that if you have any questions or any thoughts, or you'd like to connect with us, the team here at Workplace at the River, go ahead and drop your contact details. Go ahead and say hello at this link, tiny.cc/waterconnect. It's like dropping your business card at the end of a networking event. We'd like to connect you with others in your similar industry. We can collaborate better as well. So it's a good place for us to kind of network and collaborate. So go ahead and drop your details there. All right, we've come to the end of the talk for today. It's been my pleasure to host all of you here this evening. My name is Joel, and I'm part of the team at Workplace at the River. And I've been very thankful to host all of you this evening. See you again next week. Bye.